Arturo. This is my son Connor out there. And we're really happy to be here in New Mexico. Arturo's been a great friend of mine and my family for many years. He's head of the farm workers, president of the farm workers, and he's Cesar Chavez's son-in-law, and is really the heir to the legacy of Cesar Chavez. And my father went out in 1966, did hearings out there with the farm workers. Went back in 1968 in March when he had already decided to run for president, but only his closest staffers knew. And Cesar was the first person, and there were people on his staff recommended highly that didn't go out to see Cesar. Cesar at that time was fasting, and he asked Daddy to come out and break the fast with him. And Daddy said, "I don't care." He said they thought it would hurt him in California with the Anglo community because Cesar was regarded as a revolutionary or communist or whatever at that point. And he thought that, he said to Peter Edelman, he said, I don't care, I really like Cesar. And he went out there, and Cesar at that time committed, said, "I'll be there for you." And in fact, one of the key reasons that he was able to win California was because of Cesar's help. So it's really good for me. We've traveled a lot together over the years. It's really good for me to be here with Arturo, and I'm very happy to be here in New Mexico, which has always been one of my favorite states, the state I selected for my 5th grade project. New Mexico was because I had announced to my family I was going to write a book on the environment when I was a little kid. My father arranged for me to meet the Secretary of Interior and do a recorded interview with him. It was Stuart Udall, of course, who was from this state. And Stuart, my father, when he ran in 1968, most people don't know this, but he intended to select Stuart Udall as his running mate if he had won the nomination.
Wow.
And he loves Stuart Udall, and I'm so happy to have Julia and have this for the family. You know, we just came from a day of campaigning for Mark, and I've been up there a lot in Colorado because he's in a little more trouble. They're killing him up there. If you look at the ads, it's just the pure, just, vitriolic Republican deception and poison. And Mark said the other day to us, he said, "I'm glad I early voted because after watching all these ads, I wouldn't want to vote for myself." But I'm really happy Tom's in better shape here, and we feel pretty good about New Mexico, but we have to win this state. And so much at stake at this election, more than any in my lifetime. It's about all the things we care about as a country, and it's a struggle over the soul of our country and over the values. Are we going to be a country? The vision of the Bush, Cheney, McCain is that this is a place where individuals can come and they can make a big pile for themselves, and whoever dies with the most stuff wins. And that's their view of America. And we know that it's something more than that we're not going to be judged, as my father said, based upon the size of our armies, or the throw weight of our weapons, or the wealth of our citizens, but rather on how we care for the least fortunate members of our society, how strongly we adhere to the principles upon which our nation was founded, including human rights abroad and civil rights at home, and how strongly, robustly we resist the seduction of the notion that we can advance ourselves as people by leaving our poor brothers and sisters behind. And I've been talking about the environment and energy a lot today, but we saw a guy this morning, Arturo and I, over in Las Vegas, and he came into the place where we were speaking. He spoke after Arturo and I spoke, and he was on the respirator, and he's 72 years old. He said that he had allowed 3 years ago, he had allowed his insurance to lapse because it was going up every month. He couldn't afford it anymore, his health insurance. And 3 months later, he was diagnosed with cancer. And he had a lifetime of savings, and he had a home. And within a month, he had lost everything. He had to do chemo and radiation, and it bankrupted him. His pills were $300 a piece, and he couldn't afford Medicare. Now he's on Medicare because he's poverty-stricken. He has no home, no place to put his head down. He's walking around with a respirator. And you know, that shouldn't happen in America. This should not be the only industrialized, it's not, you know, it's undignified, but everybody here, and any decent person, knows that it's completely un-American and it's immoral, you know, and that we are the only nation, industrialized nation in the world, where somebody can work their entire lives and give their sweat and blood and health and pay their taxes, you know, to this nation, and then when they reach retirement age and have put a little aside for themselves to live out their lives, that they can watch their entire life savings disappear, evaporate within 3 or 4 weeks because they got a catastrophic illness. And this is the only industrialized nation in the world where young parents can sit in a living room and listen to their baby crying in the room next door and have to wonder whether that child is $50 sick or $100 sick or $500 sick before they bring them to a hospital. And you know, it's just not right that that's happening in this country. And we're now facing these crises. You know, we're facing a moral crisis in our country where we've now, you know, we've lost the prestige. When I was a little boy, I went to Europe with my father, and we were met. I went to all these countries in Europe, France and Germany and Czechoslovakia and Poland, Greece, Italy. Everywhere we went, we were met by hundreds of thousands of people who came out onto the streets because they loved our country. They were starved for moral authority. They looked to us for leadership, not bullying, but leadership. They proudly named their streets after our presidents, Washington and Jefferson and Lincoln and Roosevelt and Kennedy. And I remember the day after 9/11, when the biggest, and the headline of the biggest newspaper in France, Le Monde, was "We're all Americans now." And for 3 weeks after 9/11, Muslim people, by the thousands, came out onto the streets of Tehran in spontaneous candlelight vigils to express their solidarity, their sympathy, their love for the United States of America. We were the most beloved nation on the face of the earth in the history of the globe. It took 230 years of visionary, restrained, and disciplined leadership by Republican and Democratic presidents to build up those vast reservoirs of love for our country. And in 8 short years, through monumental arrogance and incompetence, they have drained those reservoirs dry. And you know, today we're you know, and to me this is the bitterest pill to swallow, because I saw the hope when I was a little boy in the faces of those vast crowds of people for leadership from the United States, not just to do good things for our country, but to do great things for all of humanity. And President Lincoln said, America is a great nation because we're a good nation. And he said, if we ever lose our goodness, he warned, we'll quickly forfeit our greatness as well. And today, as you know, we're doing things in this country that none of us ever imagined that America.